Get ready! This video is full of frames, what to do with all of them, and lots of techniques you're gonna love. Project number 1. So I had this in my booth for a while. It is vintage, gorgeous, but no one purchased it, and I thought we're going to give this a new life. Don't fret though, we're gonna reuse that print for something else. I'm going to go ahead and put that in my booth in a clear plastic sleeve for $4 and get that sold to someone who loves it as much as I do. In the meantime, I'm taking all of this backing out. We're going to have to make a new back for this because what I want to do is paint a black background, and I need to cut a piece of cardboard, so that's what I've done. You'll already see I'm attaching this thin backing that was the only thing on there with some spray glue. Can you guess how many projects are going to be in this video? If you can't, you're going to have to stay until the end, and my favorite one is at the end. Once that's dried, I'm going to go ahead and take this Paint Couture all-in-one pitch black paint and just give it a good coat covering all of that cardboard. I'm going to be using that same paint. Yes, the frame and the background is going to be black, but wait till you see what we're going to do with this. So I'm giving this a good coat of this same pitch black. I think it took about 2 coats. I'm going to let that dry while we work on the fun part. So what I wanted to do was give both of the background and the frame black because we're going to use this gorgeous floral transfer, and I'm just going to use the page how it is. I'm not going to cut anything up. This is from one of the IOD's Summer 2024 release. And I want to show you, not only can you use this for spring or summer, but giving a dark background makes it look very fallish and a little moody. What I'm doing is just starting a strip up here at the top to attach, and just going to go ahead and use the little plastic scraper sort of stick that comes with this to put a little pressure and get this released from here, pulling the plastic back as I go. As you can see, I just pulled that whole backing out from underneath once I had an area attached. Now I don't get too crazy about being perfect with these transfers. There's always a way to fix them, so that's why I just usually plop them on or pull the backing off pretty quickly. I'm just gonna go ahead and finish rubbing the rest of that down and detaching it from the plastic topping. Now it's time to put this beautiful piece together. So we will be covering this backing. That's my cardboard I used to make this project more sturdy. I'm just placing that in there, adding some of that brown paper to cover this up. I don't show that, but look at this gorgeous piece. Just to break up a little bit of that black, I'm going to be using some of this rub and buff. I go around the beading that you can't see until I add the gold on the inner part of the frame, and I do the wavy and edges of the frame in this gold, and I love how this turns out. Now I'm going to be putting this in my booth. I do apologize for the reflection and in the photos coming up. Let me know if you love this makeover, and I know I am sad about having to change that old vintage art that was already in here, but this piece will sell really quick in my booth. I have a vendor booth if you've not watched me before, and I make things and sell in there along with other vintage items that I find just doing my thrifting. This next project, oh my goodness, I love this so much. This gorgeous frame. I don't know how old it is, but it does have a little chip on the corner and says it's made in Italy. Now it had this little plastic bubble frame on there, but we're gonna not use that because I'm gonna go through some of my vintage and newer brooches, and we're just gonna put a brooch on here. So if you have something fun or gorgeous that you would love to frame or just put in a frame, grab it. Even if it's a little plastic dinosaur you want to paint gold, or a bug you want to paint gold, so simple to use a frame. I went through a few just to kind of show you all some variety, but I do settle on a beautiful Cameo brooch, and it's a newer one. It's nothing fancy, or I mean, I think it looks fancy even though it's new, but it's nothing as old as this frame. Before we attach our brooch, we're going to fix the backing on this because I want this frame to stay as close as possible to the original. So I'm just using some Fabri-Tac glue, which sticks really quickly and dries very quickly. Once I finish that up, I am going to go ahead and move that plastic piece off camera, and luckily it was just black velvet behind there. So I took a little bit of tape and got all of the lint that was on here off, and then kind of brushed the velvet, because that's what that fabric is velvet. Once I did that, then it was time to put the brooch on there. I don't know if you've ever worked with brooches or earrings, but a lot of times it's very easy to just cut the metal. And I started with my little nippers and had to get my big tin snips out, but it was super easy to just cut the back or cut the pin off of this, and then the little bit of metal that was sticking up, so that we could flatten this brooch and have it flat on the back. And I just used E6000 and a tad of hot glue for temporary hold while that E6000 dries, and this turned out so gorgeous. Now I go ahead and add a little bit of gold rub and buff to cover the corner that was kind of broken, and give just a touch, not much, of that color all over the frame, but leaving this mostly natural. You don't have to paint every single thing to alter something or give it a new life. And I will put this in my booth for about $15, and I paid $1 for this frame, and I think 89 cents for the brooch. I'm gonna go ahead here and just show you how I'm looking at my waxes. I keep a book with waxes and paints and compare to the pieces to see which one will match the best. I love it. It's so much fun having all of that stuff on one page to compare them all. You guys will have to let me know what you think about this one. Oh my goodness, you all, this next project. My mom had these frames made for all of our senior portraits, and then she got some fancier ones, and of course I took these. I had this one and I painted it this aqua color about 10 years ago, and it's just been sitting with the other frames in my stash. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to use it today in this old frame hack video. I'm using a cream color to cover up the top, and then I did the edges in black, because we're going to use this gorgeous grungy recycled paper. I want to just put this all on the frame. So what I'm going to do is the regular wet on wet method. I'm misting my paper using Mod Podge, laying my strips down, getting them somewhat even with the pattern, not getting too anxious about that. Once I get my strips on there, I found this little rubber silicone scraper tool, and I'm just going around all of the raised edge of that frame, making sure that I have good contact on those edges, and then piecing the pieces on the top, on the side, on the bottom. And once I get all these the way that I want them and attached with the Mod Podge underneath, I'm going to give it all a good coat of Mod Podge on top, and I'm going to let this dry overnight. Now, I'm sorry for all the background noise. It is really busy in our house today. Everybody's off from work, so I'm just recording around what I can. You'll see that I got a little tear there, but we've definitely had those before. They're so easy to fix. Don't stress too much about stuff like that. All right, I'm just fitting this all together. I've let it dry overnight. Now I'm giving all those edges a good sand. Once I get them all sanded off, I go ahead and start to give this a good wax and paint around the edges. But before then, I use my little iron to iron down any bubbles or anything that might need going over. And you definitely can do that. It reheats the Mod Podge and makes your paper stick. So I did all those edges in black, and now I'm giving it a black wax. You guys, I love how this turned out. I'm just going to use this for staging in my booth. I'm going to put a price tag of $15 on it. I probably could put 20, but I'll put 15, and we'll see how it sells, but I'm going to use it to stage around things like this book. Isn't that gorgeous? I think frames around things or just sitting by themselves leaned up against a fireplace are so beautiful. And don't forget, you can put paper all around these, even music paper, book pages. You don't have to have decoupage paper. I hope you guys love this one as much as I do. Our next project, oh, you guys, it's so beautiful. And I know I keep saying that I love these projects, but I have this silver frame and I've already taken the glass and backing out. We're gonna put those back in, you'll see that later. But I'm using some of these wood corners and I'm gluing them on with TITEBOND Quick and Thick and hot glue. And I'm putting them a little over the edge to give this a little bit more of a grand look. And we're gonna paint this a blue color. Now I know blue is not one of my favorite colors. You guys will see in my videos that I use all colors because I'm selling stuff in my vendor booth and I'm trying to appeal to everyone, and it works because my stuff sells. A lot of things that I make is not my style and does not go in my home, but I love making them. Now this is a Nantucket blue. It is a folk art paint, chalk paint. And I do love using colors when I'm creating. It's so fun. Even if it's not hanging in my home, I enjoy it. I love using pinks and reds and blues and those colors. And people will say, oh, the things you make aren't my style, but I love watching the process. And that's what my videos are about. It's about the process and about how to do things regardless of what color you use or what your style is. So the first coat, I just did regular paint, and the second one I'm adding salt wash into the paint to give this a little bit of a texture. Now you can use baking soda for this as well. It's a little bit different texture, but it works just fine. And you know, back to the kind of the color thing, if you're selling items, if you appeal to a lot of different styles, but make them your style when you're creating them, not only will you get more sales, but it'll also be your style and still be cohesive in your booth no matter what color you're using, if that makes sense. Anyways, so once we get this second coat on, I'm going to be adding this beautiful print. Now I did this off camera, but I need some wax to go with this because I want to bring out the oranges and the reds of this print. And you will see that beautiful blue is the same color or some of the color that's in this print. And I think it's just beautiful. We're going to add this sort of amber red and a little bit of gold rub and buff as well onto this frame, bringing out those gorgeous wood pieces and the color in this piece of art. Now this came from Temu. You can use any kind of print you want. There's plenty of free prints online. The Graphics Fairy has a lot for free. She also has a large paid subscription. You can purchase prints off Etsy. I recently did that myself. So anywhere that you feel comfortable purchasing from, even Amazon has prints for sale that you can put in frames. And this one was less than $1, and the frame I think was $1. And I'm gonna put this in my booth for $28. So I actually enjoyed making this so much, and not only did I get joy out of making it, now I get to sell it and make a nice profit. And I'm not trying to sound all cocky and like everything sells in my booth. Yeah, there's things that do sit in my booth for a little while before they sell, or they might sell right away. But there are people that will do their whole house in farmhouse, and then they'll have their craft room done in all magical fairies. So you have to remember that there are people that really want something different that's not being sold at Hobby Lobby or Target, and that is what these pieces are about. And yes, I do love Hobby Lobby and Target and own pieces from there myself, mixed in with unique pieces. Let me know what you all think about this one. The photo is not doing any justice because of the glare and the coloring, but it turned out so beautiful. This next project, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. I found this heavy duty frame at the thrift store for $3. We're gonna pop out that center and get to work on this frame. I'm gonna be painting this a cream color using some recycled decoupage paper. I've already cut out this fit to go in here. At least I thought it would. And it does. It just gets a little bit wrinkled, but that's okay because we're going to give this a grungy style anyways, and you'll see that coming up. I'm putting a coat of Mod Podge underneath, a coat of Mod Podge on top, and letting that dry, cutting and or tearing very badly this extra off. It's okay though. Like I said, we're grunging this up, I'm using some brown paint, black paint, and some that kind of looks like rust or terracotta. And I'm just grunging up the corners, using a little bit of salt wash, dipping my paintbrush in all these colors and just making it look how I want. Now you can't mess this up. Get out your paints and play and just give a little bit of grunginess to your decoupage paper. It is so much fun. Once I get that grungy goodness how I like it, I'm going to take a little bit of this copper and not completely cover up this gold, but give it a little refresher, leaving some of that natural coming through. Then we water that copper down a little bit and do a little bit of splattering. This is how I like to splatter. I just take my paintbrush and I hit it and it makes perfect splatters. Now for that centerpiece, I've already painted it black and chocolate, and we're going to use this Prima transfer. I'm going to be using the one that looks like a book page and a frame with a mop. Adding my center in there, and that pretty, I love that chocolate and brown together. And just rubbing this off with the little stick that comes with it. I'm going to put a clear coat of wax over the paper and over the transfer to finish this piece off. I love how this turned out. Now, if you guys want any of these products, you can go to Aunt Bee's Attic. My link is in the description box below. I do get a small percentage to help pay for things I use for this video. I'm wiping some of that wax back. I want to know what you guys think about this one. Oh, and I forgot that I put some of that bronze just on those little corners that had a tiny motif. Project number 6. Let's get out some of our stamps and use what we have to make over some old frames like this one. Now this is a tiny little one and I had a vision in mind, so I ran through my stamps and found one that would fit in this frame, and now I'm just giving it a coat of this espresso. We're mostly going to leave this a dark color because of what we're doing for the inside of this. Because there was only cardboard in here, I grabbed some of my heavier watercolor paper and just cut out a piece that would fit on the cardboard or just inside of the frame. And I'm taking several neutral colors of paint to give this a painterly background because we're going to be using that espresso color to do some stamping on this with, and I want the background to be multicolored instead of just plain old white or just cream. I'm just going to let this dry overnight, that way I don't have to worry about it being damp. Then I'm going to use my espresso, and I like to just kind of brush it out and roll it on. You can use ink for this. I just like the way paint looks better. Sometimes ink's better. It really just depends on the project. So I'm just giving this a good stamping down, and when I finish it, I just don't feel like it's enough. So I grab a little tiny paintbrush and just kind of color inside the lines, just making brush strokes to give this a little bit more of a painted look, using that stamp as my guide. I want to give this a little bit of a halo look, so I'm grabbing one of my Distress inks and just taking my little dauber and going all around the edges so this will show in the frame. You have to make sure that you get this a little thick, otherwise if it's very thin, it's not going to show up because of the lip of that frame. Now I've put this all back together, and I just want to give a little bit of chocolate bronzing to this. I don't want this to turn out too feminine. That way, if someone, male or female, wants to purchase this, I am leaving it sort of a neutral look because this is going to go into my booth. And anything with a horse on it sells in my vendor booth every time. Project number 7, we have another one that I put in my booth for sale and it did not go, so we're going to make this one over. Don't fret though, we're going to pop that photo into a clear plastic sleeve and put $4 on it. And I did cut that down to a rectangle so it looked nicer. I'm using this moss green from Folk Art. Ooh, I love this color. So, you know, I have a hard time not keeping, well, I kept this one at least for the Halloween season. I painted this frame that green color, gave it a good clear wax because we need a barrier for what we're going to be doing coming up. Wait till you all see the art that's going in this one. We need this black wax on here to change this color to match our artwork. Now it looks really dark, but I promise you, you put it on, you wipe it off, and that green shines through perfectly. For the look I wanted, I went ahead and painted that oval matte a black color, and this is the gorgeous print we are using. It's a little creepy. It can be for fall or the Halloween spooky season. I went ahead and just marked off where I needed to trim it to fit in that oval. And I also moved the photo or the artwork to the left a little so the house was more centered, and you can't tell because it's behind that mat. So remember, you can place your prints however you want as long as they're covered up with something else. Now once we get that done, I'm going to put this all together and add some autumn gold and some gold rub and buff to bring out the warm tones in this and to brighten it back up some. Now I will tell you, this is one of Temu's shiny prints, and I generally take my matte clear coat by RUSTOLEUM over them and it tones down the shine, but I didn't with this one. But I like the matte look better, and that's how you can get it, is just take a matte clear coat, go over the whole print. It doesn't mess up the print or anything. I just forgot to do that to this one. Now I do go ahead and hang this in my little kitchenette area with a little spooky things for the Halloween season. I'm sorry for the reflection, but it was just impossible to not get my little lamp in there and other reflections. Project number 8, I was definitely on the fence about this one, but trust the process, isn't that what we say? So I got this frame for 99 cents and I'm taking it apart. We're going to be using some cream colored paint to start out with. Then I thought I would use some of this Folk Art Crackle medium, and you put it on here, let it dry, and then put your second color of paint on top so that it can do the crackle effect. I decided to use, I think it was this espresso, I was thinking black, and I did that. And you want to be careful when you do this because most crackle mediums will say, of course, let it dry for about an hour, sometimes less, put a thin coat of your paint, which I used espresso on here, not dragging it because it will pull the layers up. Once I did that and let it dry, then I added this Verde green, which I think this was where my mistake was, where I was kind of veering off from not liking it. I love the green glaze is what this is, and I thought, oh, that'll go down in the cracks, but it did, but it changed the whole color. And when you see the print that I put in here, the green is just too much. So I thought, well, I'll white wax it, that'll tone it back some. Another bad idea, but I will tell you in the end it works out. So see, for me, it's just too green or black looking. So I thought, well, let's see if some gold rub and buff will kind of fix this. And of course it did. It brought the warm tones out, matching the photo. And I had put one of these photos in my booth about 2 weeks ago, like a 4x6 card one, and it sold right away, like within a day. So I ordered some of the larger ones off Temu, and this one's done, and I'm going to stick it in my booth. Project number 9. This is another easy one you can use stamps with. Got this frame for $1. I'm going to paint it a gorgeous Madagascar mocha color. I did the same thing and got some of that watercolor paper, painted it black, and now I'm using just some white chalk paint, rolling over this gorgeous bicycle stamp. It's from the Antiquities IOD stamp. The horse was also from that stamp set. And I'm just gonna stamp this on that black background, giving it just a pop with that white paint. I'm gonna go ahead and put it back in my painted frame, and we're gonna use some black wax, Dixie Belle black wax, to get down in those crevices and then wipe some of that back. That way it kind of blends with the black background of the bicycle. These are so easy to do, and these smaller ones make great gifts. Let me know what you think about this one. Project number 10. Okay, this is my most favorite, and it's because of the painting and the waxes. So we're going to start out with this Paint Couture Antique Silver. I wanted this to have a sheer coat. I did go ahead and put 2 coats on here, but I wanted that black background to serve as a darkness behind here, and it did not disappoint. Once that dried, I picked out several waxes that would go with the piece of art that's going in here, and I started with this ochre. It's like a brown wax, but it's matte. There's no metallic in it at all. And I just got down in the crevices and got some of that warmth going on. I really love this color, and I love the matte waxes. They're beautiful. I mean, of course the metallics are too, but you can get different kinds in the Prima. There are some that's antique, some that's matte, some that is the reflective, which is the like bronzing, metallics. So I'm just going over this with that. And then I want to add some of the Rub and Buff, one of the golds. I can't remember what color, but I did show you in the beginning. So I'm kind of building layers here, and we do change colors. We add a couple more waxes. Now, some people don't like to add a lot of product. Me, I love it. The way that this turns out would not be the way it is if it wasn't for the layers. The next one is going to be this Antique Silver, which I know the base is silver, but now we want to bring out an even brighter silver to go with this. Once we get a little bit of that on, then we're going to add some of this Rub and Buff black and some of this sage, I think that's sage wax, and oh my goodness, it brings this to the next level for our art. Once I get on all of the colors that I want, I will go back in and add previous colors to get it to the look I feel like I want, if that makes sense. Now you have to be real careful with this black Rub and Buff because it can really cover good, and just wiping back helps with this. Also using some clear wax if you need to. We're gonna end this with the Rub and Buff Gold. I don't think I show it on here, but I use a little bit of clear wax to blend all of these, add the print, and I'm gonna show you up close how the frame looks so that you can kind of see how those waxes blend together to give that look that I needed for this print. And I'm just going to tell you, I put one of these prints, a very large one in a larger frame, about 2 weeks ago, and it sold within 2 days, and I had, I think, $38 on it. So I ordered some smaller ones to add to my booth. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I have read the comments. I will get caught up on those this weekend. Thank you to all the new subscribers, and of course the ones that have been here from the beginning. I will see you all in the next video.